All right, welcome. As I was just saying a moment ago, we're going to be looking at challenges this evening. I'm going to put up a slide really quickly before we move on to videos, just so you can see the considerations we want to be using when we are having discussion this evening about these clips. This should not be new to many of you, but if it is, I will go over this really quickly. But these are the 5 considerations and the only 5 considerations we want to use when we're talking this evening about the challenges that we're looking at. So as we get into this clip analysis, and I'm asking you for your feedback, I want you to reference these considerations and these considerations only. So quick summary: point of contact is where on the body the person who is guilty of the offense has used when making the challenge. Excuse me, I apologize, I flipped those around, I'm sorry. The point of contact is where on the body of the person who received the challenge the contact is made. Mode of contact is what the offending party uses when doing it. So the best example I like to use is that if I punch you in the face, the point of contact would be your face. The mode of contact would be my fist. So point of contact is where you receive a challenge. Mode of contact is what I use to make the challenge. Shape of the body. This helps us to understand a little bit about the nature of the challenge. Was the leg straight? Was the player up off the ground? Were they sliding? Was the contact down into the ground? Was the leg bent? What's the shape of the body? And what impact would that have in upgrading us from potentially a careless foul to reckless challenge, or a reckless challenge to something with excessive force that endangers the safety of the body? Or excuse me, of the opponent. And then the next part is force. How much force is used in this challenge? We've talked a little bit in previous webinars with challenges about wanting to focus our red cards on challenges that have a lot of force that can endanger the safety. So that's what we want to focus on there. And then lastly is the ability to play the ball. If the ball's 2 yards away and someone puts a challenge into a planted foot nowhere near the ball, that's going to escalate our potential misconduct. So quick summary of those, because I want those to be our primary focuses as we look at our considerations, or excuse me, as we look at our clips this evening. Are there any questions? If you have any questions at this point, please use the chat feature. All right, then I'm going to move us into some clips. All right, so here comes the first one. Again, I'm watching these the same as you are, so we'll pull one up, we'll watch it, and then I've got a poll that I will launch that has a variety of answers that will hopefully cover most things related to challenges. So here we go. And he has the audacity to complain. All right, so we're going to watch it one more time. Now that we've seen a nice replay of it, we'll watch it in full speed. All right, so we've had the replays. Now I'm going to launch a poll, and I would like to see what decisions you have. Please don't use the chat feature to communicate any challenge or any answers you have here. Just look at the poll and vote for what you think we should have here. Does anybody see the poll yet? Please raise your hand if you do not see the poll. Yeah, okay. This happened to me last night. Give me just a second here. Wait for all the hands to go down. I don't know why this happened last time, but it did happen. I'm going to end the poll. All right. Can you see it now, I hope? Still no. Huh. Okay, I've got some answers now. Some people are seeing it. Folks, if you don't have the poll, click the polling button down at the bottom of your screen on that panel that shows you all the various options that you have. Huh, one person voted. Give me just a second, folks. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing this. All right, I'm gonna do that. Okay, now people are seeing it. Thanks, folks. Sorry for the delay there. I apologize. I'm not sure why it's been doing that lately. It's the second or third time it's happened now. All right, so take a few seconds, put your vote in. We only got about 50% of folks have voted on the call, so take a moment. If you're not seeing the poll still, please click the polling button. Yeah, that's what I thought, Jose. It should just come up as a pop-up screen. All right, so I'll go ahead and pause it there. So what I want to do now, and this is where we're still experimenting with how we can engage you guys a little bit in the discussion. What I would like you to do is using the chat feature. And please, if you send a message, make sure you're sending it to all panelists and attendees so that everybody can read it, panelists and attendees. That's an option you can click down and make sure everybody can see your comment. If you voted for careless foul, no misconduct needed, please, in the comment or in the chat feature, please write out your considerations for why you had just a careless foul, no misconduct. For those of you that had reckless challenge, you can start preparing your considerations by typing it into the chat feature. Just please don't send it yet. So please type into the chat feature your considerations for why you have just a careless foul, no misconduct needed. And again, folks, if you voted for a caution, start typing your answers because I'm going to ask you next. Just don't actually hit submit yet. And please make sure, folks, you're sending these comments to all panelists and attendees. I'm seeing most of you are just sending it to panelists, which means everybody can't see it. Please make sure your message goes to all panelists and attendees. Okay, thanks everybody who went careless. Let's go ahead and stop now. Those people who had caution, please send in via the chat feature your comments for why you had caution. And again, make sure it's to all panelists and attendees. All right, we had just a couple people who said this should be a red card, so I will get to that here in a second. All right, so again, I want to remind folks. Now, this is new for us. I understand. I'm asking you for commentary on your considerations. Reminder what I said in the beginning. Please reference back to the considerations that we talked about: point of contact, mode of contact, force, shape of the body. Those are the considerations we want to be using here. Comments like this is beyond careless, this is a highly dangerous challenge, things like that don't describe the nature of what happened. And if somebody asks you, why did you give yellow card here? And you say, because that's beyond careless, how do you define that? That's hard to do. If you say that's highly dangerous, then that sounds like language that's endangering the safety of the opponent, which means we should have red card. So we have to be careful with our language, and we have to narrow our commentary to those considerations. And so here is a good one. I'm going to copy and paste this coming from me. but coming from another person. So this is a good example. Point of contact was high above the waist. Mode of contact was the foot and the leg. Straight leg, forces spread across the torso, not one point directly through, so it's reckless, not serious foul play. Ability to play the ball existed, but not fairly. That's a really good analysis, and the answer that we'd be looking for here is a yellow card. And the reason we'd want to see a yellow card, so I'm going to share the results here first. We had about 50% saying careless and 44% saying yellow card. So we're in the right ballpark. Not a problem there. Luckily, nobody said this is not a foul, so that's a good thing. So the thing that we have to be thinking about here is, particularly when we watch the replay, this is a player who is not really concerned about the opponent and the potential impact of swinging his leg like this. And that's one of the things that the laws of the game says and the considerations say about a reckless challenge is not taking into consideration the potential impact to your opponent. So we have here the boot and the leg coming across the body into the stomach. Definitely, I mean, you know, the ball's there, but it's going to be really hard to play it. Commits this challenge in a reckless manner, swinging with a moderate amount of force. It's not a lot of force, but it's not no force. It's definitely a deliberate action that this player has done. He swung his leg deliberately there. So I think this needs to be a caution. So there's a couple of comments I wanted to touch upon. A couple people said there's no PK here, or said it as a question. So we just have to look at where this happened on the field. This is clearly not inside the penalty area. So no, this is no PK. It's very far outside the penalty area. And then there was another comment earlier that somebody made that seemed to suggest this was a yellow card because of where on the field it happened and that this is a dangerous attacking zone. So I want to make sure that we dispel that idea. We would not change this from being a yellow card or not a yellow card just because it's in a dangerous area of the field. The only time we really take into consideration where on the field it happened as a factor in a yellow card or not, or a red card or not, is if we're talking about stopping a promising attack opportunities or obvious goal scoring opportunities. So if we have spa or dog so considerations for misconduct, then yes, where on the field it happens. But I think the comment I read here was maybe we don't need to give a yellow card because you're giving them a really good promising attacking free kick. That's not a line of thought that we really want to go down in this kind of a scenario or ever really. Where it happens on the field is irrelevant. If it's a caution for the challenge, it's a caution for the challenge no matter what part of the field it is. The only time the location of the field matters is if we're talking about spa or dog so. Any questions on that clip before we move on to the next one? Okay. So remember, as we go through these clips now, I'm going to be asking you to justify your decision using the considerations in the chat window. So once you make a decision, if you want to open up the chat and start typing your response, please just don't submit it until I ask for the decision you made to be submitted. That would be my only request. So here we go. The next one. Watch that replay one more time. All right, and let's watch it in real time one more time. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. Since we don't have any answers yet, I'm guessing for some reason this poll thing is being challenged. Give me just a second here. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know why this poll feature is getting a little bit weird yet. How about now? Still not seeing it, huh? All right, I have to talk to Zoom about why this is happening. I'm really sorry, guys. Give me just a second here. I'm gonna launch a different poll. This isn't relevant, so just tell me if you see it. Everybody see that poll? Nope. Yeah, this might be an issue with Zoom. I've read a little bit about some Zoom features not working very well because it's being overloaded. I'm gonna try one more time, and if not, then we'll just put we'll have you put your votes up. All right, now I'm getting answers. Thanks, guys. Well, I guess we'll forgive Zoom a little bit because they're a bit overwhelmed right now. Okay, a few more seconds. Last chance to get your votes in. All right. I don't think we need to talk about this one at length, so I'm just going to share the results based on what everybody showed. So we have 70% saying that this is a caution for a reckless challenge. We had 11%, just a handful of people say that this is a careless foul. And we had about 18%, which is a bit more alarming for me, for the red card. So yellow card is definitely what we want to see for this. The reason that this is not a red card is it has to do with the mode and the point of contact. So mode, as we talked about, I saw somebody ask here, mode of contact is what the defending player uses to make contact. So in this clip, it would be what is the player in black here using to make contact. And the point of contact would be where on the body of the player, in this situation, the player in red, where on their body did that contact happen. And so for me, and then force is a factor in this one too. But I think the consideration here is that lead foot, which in this kind of situation might have been one that could have done damage, the lunge there. If this with a straight leg goes into the opponent and hits him above the ankle, oops, or something like that, then yeah, maybe we have some consideration for this being a red card. But he doesn't, he misses him. And it's the follow-through slide that actually makes the contact. And the reason we want to go with yellow card here and not red card is because by this point, the player has been sliding on the ground, which is going to absorb a lot of the force. And the point of contact is low on the ground on the shoe. It's going to be hard to hurt a player, truly endanger their safety, if you make contact on the shoe. Because if you make contact with the shoe's just going to move. If you make contact higher up, so for example, if the contact happens up here at the ankle, now you can bend that leg, you can potentially break that leg. That's a very different scenario. But because the contact happens low on the ground, on the foot itself, it's highly doubtful you're going to endanger the safety of the opponent there, particularly with the moderate amount of force that has been used here. So the point of contact is going to be the foot. The mode of contact is probably the shin or the knee. It's hard to tell exactly what the replay we have, but it's definitely not the studs. Studs making contact are something that are going to raise our awareness a little bit. And it's a moderate amount of force because he's not coming with terrible amount of speed. And by the time he makes contact, his body's on the ground, which means the ground has slowed him down and absorbed a little bit of that. So you can see when he follows through here with the leg that's on the ground, he hits the foot and it just moves the foot out of the way. Definitely doesn't feel good. This isn't going to feel good for the player receiving the challenge, but it's not going to endanger the safety of his opponent. Having said that, if that same contact happens up here and that foot folds under or the ankle folds over, now we may be escalating this to a red card because the point of contact is significant enough that it could endanger the safety of the opponent. So, questions on that analysis? We had a question here, if both legs had made contact, would that change the decision? Yes and no. Simply no. But if the two legs were together and had made contact, then one would say it would be impossible for the contact to be on the ground, because if the two legs are doing it at the same time, they both can't be on the ground. And so that would mean that probably the second leg that's making contact is higher up, and now that might be shifting us into a higher level of sanction. So, all things being equal, if the point of contact is still on the ground, the mode of contact is still, with the shin or something like that, and it just happens to be two legs instead of one, then no, we don't need to escalate it. But it's doubtful that two legs can make contact at the same time on the same point, meaning one of them would probably be higher, and that might escalate our decision. We had a question here, how does the shape of the body influence this caution? The big thing with the shape of the body here, and what that is most commonly referencing, is, do we have a straight leg? Do we have the body off the ground? Those are the two big things we need to be thinking about. And so in this one, again, as I said a moment ago, if this lead leg is straight and he puts it into the ankle, the shape of the body means that that force is pretty significant. What really makes contact here is a leg that is bent. And the bent leg means this player is not driving nearly as much force through that challenge, which means it's not going to endanger the safety of the opponent. So that's how the shape of the body would influence this. The shape of the body doesn't upgrade it from a careless foul to a reckless challenge. That's definitely the point of contact. Question here, does it make a difference if the red player is injured and cannot return to the match? The answer to that is no. We don't want, except for in very, very rare situations, we don't want to take the outcome to the player into effect. The main reason being, if this red player had come in with an ankle that was already sprained and somebody just stepped on his foot the wrong way, that might put him out of the game. So he may be coming into this game with a pre-existing injury where any kind of minor contact is going to make him go down and stay down and have to be removed from the game. And we as referees can't know that. So we really want to stick our analysis, particularly when it comes to misconduct, to what we actually witnessed, what actually happened. We don't want to think about intent. What did the player mean to do? What did they not mean to do? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We want to be thinking, what's the point of contact? What's the mode of contact? How much force was there? And what's the shape of the body? And if all the check boxes are met for a red card, then great, send the player off, no problem. If they're not, if they have what we call mixed considerations, meaning maybe some of them are present, some of them are not, then we have to downshift into a yellow card. But what we can't do is say, oh, that player, got hurt, and so no, we can't do that because we don't know what that player brought into the game. So another question here was a touch on the ball first. That actually doesn't matter. There's written into the laws of the game a sentence, and it's in the considerations as well, that says it is a foul if you make unfair contact with the opponent after playing the ball. So if this player does play the ball here, if he jumps in and he knocks this ball away right there, but the follow through is still this, now we're talking about two different things. We're talking about the challenge on the ball here. So if we imagine this knocks the ball away, clean challenge, no problem. That's a challenge on the ball. But then after the challenge on the ball, we have a secondary challenge on the opponent because of the nature of the way this challenge was made. And if we consider this to be unfair contact, which we would, then what he does with the ball is irrelevant. So it actually says in the laws the equivalent of getting the ball first doesn't matter. If you commit unfair contact to your opponent, even after playing the ball, it is still a foul, and we would still consider this to be unfair contact. Any other questions? We had a question, what is the line between foul, no card, and foul with a yellow card on this slide tackle? For me, the big one is the point of contact and the mode to some degree. If he, just bumps him on the top of the foot, for example, if he slides across him and just makes contact with the top of the foot, then maybe that's just a careless foul. But the fact that it's on the side, the leg can move a little bit, can bend a little bit, makes a big difference. Let me see. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find a clip, Irina, to help answer that question. Give me just a moment to see if I can find the right one. That's not that one. Okay, take me just a second. I hope everybody doesn't mind me looking for this clip because I do want to find the difference there, because that is a good question. What is the difference between this being a yellow card or no card at all? Yeah, so here we go, Irina, and I'm going to make my screen. Can everybody see this clip, I hope? So this is a good example of something that's just a careless foul. Now, when we watch the replay, what we're going to see here is that the player actually does nick the ball away, just barely, but does nick the ball away. There's a better replay, actually. So at this moment right there, nicks the ball away. So good play on the ball. But then the secondary contact, as this yellow player is trying to turn away, it's top of foot to top of foot. So as this player turns out, the touch on the ball is fine. But now the yellow player turns to go run and get the ball, and the blue player has her foot hooked onto the other foot. This point of contact and mode of contact are just top of foot to top of foot. There's nothing reckless about this. So this would be a good example. This kind of contact here would be a good example of something that is a foul, but is just careless in nature. And notice this is a standing challenge. She's not sliding through and wiping somebody out. It's nothing like that. It's just a standing challenge. And if you compare that to, I think it's this one. Nope, it's not that one. Give me just a second. If you compare it to this one, you'll see the difference of what I'm talking about here. And I'm just going to go to the replay that we can actually matter. So here's a good example. Boom, gets the ball away. So touches the ball, no problem. But then the follow through, plants studs on an ankle. That makes it reckless. So this is a perfect example of, yeah, I slid and I played the ball right there. But then the second part of the challenge is I put my studs into the opponent and followed through and made some pretty nasty contact there. And so this is a good example of a challenge where we want to be talking about making unfair contact with the opponent after playing the ball. And for those of us, when we were talking about shape of body, this is a shape that we have to be worried about. Anytime we have a straight leg coming in like that, if they follow through with that leg, now we're talking about something that has potentially excessive force and endangering the safety of the opponent. The reason it is not a red card in this situation is as she makes the contact, she bends her leg and actually pulls her foot back. So she doesn't follow through this challenge with excessive force. She actually bends the leg and pulls it back. So this, when we talk about shape of body, is an important factor, right? Because, yeah, she started that tackle in a way that makes me nervous and frankly terrified, but she bends the leg so that the force doesn't go through. All that makes sense, I hope, for everybody. Sorry to diverge away from what we originally started with there. So anyway, back to this one. Any questions on the analysis of this clip in particular? Okay, great. So I'm going to move us on to the next one then. See what we got. That's a long replay. All right, here we go. Ah, okay. All right. So for those of us that need a little bit of focus on what we're looking for, we're going to be worried about this player right here. Right there. So that's what we're looking for here. So that right there is what we're worried about. Number 28 in blue. All right. So having seen that now, hopefully clearly, let's see if Zoom is wanting to let our polls work. It is launched. All right, people are seeing it. Great. A little bit more time to make your decision and get it in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end it there. So before I share this, I want to have a conversation via the chat feature. So for those of you who said that this is yellow card, please type in your considerations and send them through the chat. What considerations do you have here for those of you that chose yellow card? For those of you that voted for red card on this one, be typing your response now. Just please don't send it. All right, thanks guys. If you haven't submitted a yellow card response yet, please hold off. We got a lot of good examples. And now, folks who say red card, let's have your considerations. Couple more seconds for the red card folks to get your answers in. Hopefully everybody's able to see this. Remember to make sure you're sending it to all the attendees as well so everybody can see it. All right, so I'm going to share the results now. That's what we had. We had about 67, about 2/3 of the folks who voted saying they have a caution here, and we have about 1/3 saying a red card. So I want to share a couple of things that I saw here. I'm going to put one up. Please hold off on making any more comments for a moment. I'm going to send in something that that somebody typed. This is a really excellent analysis of this. Point of contact, top of the shoe, foot, ankle. I'm going to talk about that here in a second. Mode of contact is bottom of the shoe, studs. Shape of body, leg is slightly bent. Force, the distance is short and the force is lower. That's a really important word. That's why I copied and pasted this one. The distance that this player has gone to make this challenge is not very far, which means there's not very much force. And force is a major, major component if we're going to send somebody off. And then ability to play the ball, obviously, it's within playing distance. I'm going to share another one. And I want to make sure that we're talking about something here. So in the last one I just shared, somebody wrote, both players came in a reckless manner. So I want to make sure that we're really analyzing how these two players came in. The ball is there, it's able to be challenged, and a player comes in, puts the studs on the ball. It's a hard challenge, but the feet are down, right behind the ball, and doesn't actually make any contact with an opponent, and doesn't fly through this challenge. They don't fly through the space. They stop right where the challenge happened. So I don't know that it's fair to say that this light blue player is coming in a reckless manner, but even still, both players coming in a reckless manner doesn't change the decision of what happened. And what happened here is the blue player mistimes the challenge and stomps on the top of the foot. So when we're thinking about visual cues for how to clue into what we're going to anticipate and where we need to focus, look at the difference between this challenge. You have a player who is sliding, sort of, onto the ball, and you have another player who is lunging with a foot. This is a more normal way, sort of, it's awkward, but it's a more normal way of sliding into the ball. This kind of reach over the top of the ball is not a normal way to try to get to that ball. Putting your leg in front of it, sliding to get in front of it, those are all normal things. But reaching with your foot this high up to try to come down on top of the ball is not a normal play. That's a player who knows he's not going to get there, doesn't actually get anywhere close. You see, he's coming down. The ball's there. He doesn't actually go for the ball. He's trying to get his foot over the top of the ball and into the player. So this is a blue player, a dark blue player here. He's not actually trying to play the ball. He's trying to get his foot in front of the ball to make contact with the opponent. And so we can pick this up on the fact that he's coming up with kind of I'm going to say this word and it's inflammatory. I don't mean it this way. He's coming in with a stomping motion. It's not a stomp. That's not what I mean. But he's coming in with this sort of foot up in the air and coming down onto the ground, which is not a normal way of playing the ball. So if you see somebody raise their legs up like that, that means we need to pay attention to what they did. So getting back to the actual decision here, I saw a lot of folks. I'm going to come back to the first one that I copied. I'm going to write it again, just the first line here. Point of contact, top of foot, top of shoe, foot, ankle. Those are actually two very, very different things and very important things. The top of the foot is a strong surface. It's a hard surface. You're not going to hurt somebody by stepping on the top of their foot. The ankle, however, is a very sensitive part. It can bend, it can break. There's lots of things that can happen. The Achilles is tied into the ankle. All that stuff is very, very sensitive. So point of contact, we have to be very, very careful with top of the foot versus the ankle. Mode of contact is the studs. Force is moderate. Shape of leg is bent, so it's not a straight leg. So really, this decision between being yellow card or red card actually just comes down to the point of contact. The top of the foot, this kind of contact, more often than not, we want to have a yellow card. If this same tackle or the same challenge comes into the studs, into the ankle, we're probably going to have a red card. So that is something that we have to take into consideration. So I want to pick up on a comment here. Respectfully disagree. You won't hurt someone by stomping on top of their foot. The laws of the game don't say anything about hurting somebody. This doesn't feel good. This hurt, but it did not endanger the safety of the opponent. And that's what the law really, really talks about. And when you look at every consideration from FIFA and IFAB, the top of the foot, this kind of contact warrants a yellow card because it doesn't endanger their safety. Yeah, it's not going to feel good. It's going to hurt, but it's not going to send them to the hospital. That's the key decision there. That's the key separation, is the actual term endangering the safety of the opponent. This hurt. No doubt this did not feel good, but the safety of the opponent was not endangered. And that's why this is a yellow card and not a red card. Good analysis, though, good consideration. Any questions on that one before we move on to another clip? Location is, so comment here, location is close to the fourth official. Can we comment on communication with the referee? Quite honestly, this is a really, really hard one to pick up, if we're going to be honest. If I go back and replay this one in real time, this can be a hard one for the referee to pick up, but quite honestly, it's going to be harder for the fourth official to pick up, because the contact actually happens behind this player. So this stepped on foot is actually behind the body of this light blue player, which means the fourth official is not going to be able to see anything. So the only way this referee has a better chance of getting this is to improve positioning. Because the referee, I don't believe, gets it in this game. I'm not 100% sure. But CONCACAF now uses a term, and Pro has picked it up now, where they call this area the free zone. Not really sure why, but it's a terminology that is intended to reflect the area right in front of the technical areas and between the technical areas. This is a high-risk area of the field. That's not new for us. We know that already. Right in front of the technical areas is a high-risk area. Anytime you have players coming together in a space like this, we need to anticipate that there's going to be some kind of challenge on the ball. We have a number of multiple players in a tight space right in front of the technical area. This is a high-risk situation. Being out here doesn't give us the proximity that we need. So if this referee had slid into this space as the ball comes in closer, now he's a little bit closer to this challenge, and maybe he can pick up on the fact that the stomp happens. And as you can see, when this happens, he's got a good angle of view, but this is a hard thing to pick up, particularly when this player seems to be initiating the contact. The light blue player seems to be initiating. So that's where closing in and just being another 5 yards closer may help the referee here. But again, this is going to be a difficult decision. Again, I didn't look at these clips ahead of time either, but I think the purpose of this one is recognizing that foot on top of the studs on top of the foot needs to result in a caution. We had a couple questions here. Does the level of competition affect the misconduct? The answer to that is no. A yellow card is a yellow card. Point of contact is point of contact. Mode of contact is mode of contact. Force is force. So those are all things. Didn't short distance and moderate force also point to yellow card? Yeah, we covered that early on with the thing that I copied and pasted, where somebody said the distance is short and force is lower. So again, for this one, what I'm copying and pasting now in the comments is a really good analysis, with the caveat that we have to be careful about the choice of the word ankle. Any other questions on that clip before we move on? All right, then we probably have time for one more clip, so let's see how this goes. See what we got here. Of course. Oh, Brad Ring, get out of the way. All right, so let's watch this one more in real time, and then I'll try to get us a decent replay here. All right, so that was the real time, and now I'm going to go back to the first replay. Oh, that was the first replay. All right, this is the first replay. All right. And then here is the next replay. Brad Ring's a little bit in the way, but we might be able to catch something here. Yeah, okay. So that should give us a little bit of what we need to see. All right. Hard to pick up in the replay, but we saw a couple of examples. So, sorry, folks, I've been sharing the poll this whole time. Let's hope that we can see the poll. All right, I just launched it. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end it there. I want to stop. I'm a little frustrated right now, to be honest, folks, because we just talked about how we have to discern between the top of the foot and the ankle when we're talking about point of contact. And already I've seen two people type in top of shoe, foot, ankle. So folks, remember, it's either the ankle or it's the top of the foot. It's not both, okay? And that difference is really, really important. All right, so I'm going to share the results here. We have 71% say we have a caution for reckless challenge. We have 18% say red card, and we have 9% say careless. So I think the big thing, if we can get us, we might be able to get us one more clip. So I'm actually going to not ask for lengthy comments here because this is very similar to the last one. I'm going to go back one replay. So again, very similar to the last clip, we see the studs exposed. We see a player lunging with a straight leg. That is concerning, absolutely. The big thing here, though, is the mode of contact is the studs. Sort of a straight leg, but it does bend, which means there's not as much force. But the big one with this one is the point of contact. It's down onto the top of the foot. So again, this is going to be yellow card because the primary contact there is on top of the foot. Now, I know somebody's probably going to say there's some glancing contact or some contact to the shin, maybe a little bit. That's definitely glancing, though. And the bulk of this contact is downward onto the top of the foot. And because it's downward and onto the top of the foot, that's an area that we look at as potential for caution, not a red card for endangering the safety of the opponent. So there's actually, I want to take this moment. I'm gonna pull out a different clip, and it's gonna take me a moment to find it. So give me a second here. Maybe I'll get lucky. Oh, I got lucky. Perfect. So what we just saw, this is another example of it. And I want to use this clip to demonstrate what I was just talking about here when I talked about glancing contact and the amount of force onto a certain part of the body. And the replay will really sell this. So we just saw the replay of what happened here. We see definitely side of the foot or studs into the shin, it looks like. And then down onto the top of the foot. And I want to go back and watch the amount of force that this player comes in with. So we can all acknowledge that doesn't look good. And there's where the contact happens. And then down. So this is very similar. Obviously, the shape of the body is a little different and all that. But the key learning point in this one is that even though this contact happens above the ankle, there's a terminology that IFAB and FIFA started using called glancing. If the contact is glancing, it doesn't mean all of the force went into the part of the body where the contact started. And so this would be considered glancing contact because you can see it just slides down the leg, catches the socks a little bit. She definitely feels it on the shin, but the bulk of the contact actually is down onto the top of the foot. So that's where a lot of that force actually happens. It's down onto the top of the foot. So even though in this clip, contact starts into the shin guard, it's only minor contact, it's subtle, it slides down, and then the bulk of the force goes onto the top of the foot. So with that consideration, we would say yellow card instead of red card. Now, if this player, if the bulk of the force of this challenge is a straight leg that drives through the leg at this point, meaning it just goes there and then makes the leg go backwards from the contact to there, then yes, we're having a red card. But as you can see, this contact goes down onto the top of the foot. The contact doesn't go through the leg. It slides down the leg and down onto this. So that gets us back into hurting versus endangering the safety of the opponent. The answer from FIFA on this is they want a yellow card for a reckless challenge, glancing contact to the shin, but the bulk of the contact happens to the top of the foot. That's pretty much the same thing that happens here. I think when you look at this, he goes in with that. And yeah, the top stud might catch him on the shin guard. It's really hard to tell with this replay. But from what you can see with the follow through is the bulk of that challenge is down onto the top of the foot. And when we have the bulk of challenges down on the top of the foot like that, we want to have a yellow card. The interesting thing for me, I'm guessing here, but the referee sees this clearly, probably doesn't go with a foul because he doesn't know if it's inside or outside. That's a tough one to make from right there. But definitely we want to have a foul and we want to have a caution for a reckless challenge. We had a question here, the previous clip. Paul, are you talking about the one from the Women's World Cup when you say the previous clip? Paulo, can you clarify that for me when you mean previous on this one? So you think on this clip right here that there's a mitigating factor because the player tries to avoid it? No, I don't think so. That's a player just sticking their body in and hoping to create a physical barrier so the player can't go by him. So no, I don't think I don't think this player is trying to do extra damage. He doesn't fly through. He just braces his body. So you can see there, he firms up his body, but he doesn't plow through the player. And that's an important difference. I think if he continues his momentum, then maybe he's looking to put a shoulder into him. But here, he puts his foot down, and you can see he doesn't go past his foot. We have to look at things like that if we're going to take those into consideration. He puts his foot down. Nothing in his body goes past where he planted his foot, which would mean he's not trying to throw his upper body into the challenge. Elbow comes up, maybe, but doesn't make any contact, so that's irrelevant in this. If he makes contact with the elbow, it's with the forearm of the player. That's not going to endanger the safety of the opponent. So anytime we have to be worried about elbows, it's going to be when it comes into the face. Question here, how is the decision made on this challenge as to whether it's inside or outside? Really, really tough one. The referee's in good position to see this. A pro would argue that he's in zone 14, which is something we don't want. So he would probably be better. See how he shifts to the right there? They would probably want him to shift to the left a little bit. But either way, he's in the perfect position to see this. The only hint you're going to have as to whether or not this is inside or outside, quite frankly, is the player plants his foot when he makes this challenge. The blue player here puts his foot down when he makes this challenge. And if his foot is down and it's touching any part of the line, perhaps that gives us a little bit of an idea of where that is. You have to be really close to be able to see it. You have to be in really excellent position, but that's about the only hint you can pick up, is that the player makes this challenge with his foot down on the ground. If his foot is on the line at all, that might give you a hint it's on the inside. If you're out on a grassroots game any day of the week, if you're not 100% sure that it's inside, you can't call a penalty kick. You can only call a penalty kick if you are 100% sure. And in this one, normal grassroots game, and I would say even for this referee professional game, it's going to be really hard to be 100% sure. If you're not 100% sure, you don't award a PK. Instead, you put it on the outside. For this level, they've got VAR. They can come in and take a look at it, decide if it's inside or outside. For us, every day grassroots game, if it's not clearly inside, then put it outside. We had a question here. Can we explain again the mitigating factor behind glancing contact? The mitigating factor is that if contact is glancing, it means the amount of force in the challenge didn't actually impact the opponent in a bad way. So if they come in with a lot of force, but the contact just, grazes them or glances, that means the bulk of that force didn't get put into the body. FIFA added that law change about a year ago, or that commentary about a year ago, because they really focused for a while on challenges using the studs. And so they were really focused, if a player uses their studs and makes contact with an opponent in an unfair way, it's going to be a red card. And we saw a lot of players for a couple of years in the professional game getting sent off when a player just reached out, not dissimilar to this, and a stud or two made contact on accident with an opponent, nothing in it, no force, no danger, but because FIFA had said challenges with the studs like that are severe, red card, okay, too many players were getting sent off unfairly. And so FIFA further clarified that language and said, if the contact with the studs is glancing, meaning a bulk of the force doesn't go through the point of contact, then we want to downgrade that into just a reckless challenge, because the safety of the player has truly not been in danger. I hope that helps. Any other questions on what we've looked at, what we've talked about this evening? All right, so we're kind of all over the place. That's what we get when we just guess and look at some clips. So thank you for joining this evening. I hope this was helpful. And the plan right now is to have more like this, because we're just going to look at clips together. But I will send out a survey either tonight or tomorrow with some feedback opportunities, and also an opportunity for you to tell us what kind of clips you might want to be looking at, so that I can prepare a little bit. So thank you, as always, for taking your time. I hope this was useful. And everybody, please have a good night. If you are having questions about those considerations, again, I will, oh, crap, I'm sorry. I'll type them in really quickly so you can see them. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. There are the considerations, folks, for those of you that wanted to see them again. I'll leave them up for a second. All right. Good night, everybody.